Hello, my crafty friends. Well, today I have another fun and simple embossing technique that I want to share with you. Hi, it's Lynn Dunn from Stamptastic Designs. Thanks so much for joining me today. In this episode of Stamptastic TV, I am going to show you how to use a technique called Joseph's coat. And I have 3 different ways that you can use this technique in your card making. Now, the cards in this video feature the Flowering Blooms stamp set from Stampin Up. And of course, this technique involves some heat embossing, so you will need a couple other supplies. You will need some Versamark, some clear embossing powder, and of course a heat tool so that we can set the embossing. You will need a couple different color inks. So I have Crushed Curie, Flirty, Flamingo, and Coastal Cabana. You can use any ink that you have on hand. You will need a sponge or a blending brush, so I'm using a blending brush for mine. And the last thing you need is some black Memento ink. So you do need to choose the Memento ink and not a StazOn ink, and you'll see why in just a little bit. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so this first card, I'm going to show you how to actually do this technique. So it's a very cool technique. It's called Joseph's coat, and it really refers to the coat of many colors. So we are going to add many different colors to a piece of white cardstock, and then we're going to add some of this black ink over the top. So yes, this is actually black ink in the background here, not cardstock. All right, so let me show you how to do this. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to cut a 5 1/4 by 4 inch piece of cardstock. So this is the piece that we're going to do all of our stamping on, and we're going to apply this technique. So I'm just going to move this card out of the way for now. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add some of these colors to our background. So I'm just going to use my blending brush here, and I'm going to just add it to my cardstock. So you're just going to add random bits of color, and you can use, a sponge, you can use the blending brush. You just want to get some color all over the cardstock. So I'm starting out with my Crushed Curie here. So you can add as many or as few colors as you want. I'm using 3, but you can add 4, 5, whatever you're comfortable with. All right, and then the last color is this Coastal Cabana color. So I'm just going to kind of fill in all the spots here. And you don't have to get too particular. You just want to make sure that you have a variety of color in here, because most of this color is actually going to get covered up with black ink. So you're probably wondering, well, what in the world are we doing all this for? Well, you'll see. Okay, so I think we got enough color in there. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is just take our Versamark ink, and we're going to ink up our image. So I'm just using the large floral image that is in this set, and we'll just add that. We're going to stamp that right in the center. And then I'm just going to take one of the smaller leaves from this set, and I'm just going to add it kind of up on the top. And you probably can't see this right now, but you'll be able to see it in just a minute. And then I'll add some down on the bottom here. Okay, so now we're going to take our clear embossing powder, and we're going to add quite a bit. And I'm just tapping off the excess. So I want to cover this entire image with this embossing powder. So now we are going to heat this. Okay, so all I did was just heat it to set. So it's clear embossing powder, so you can kind of see it. You can see a little bit of the shimmer and shine. All right, so now this is where the magic happens. We're gonna take our Memento Black ink, and I am going to basically just rub this all over this image. So I know you're gonna freak out when I start to do this. But you're just going to rub it all over. And you want to cover the entire image. Now, the reason you want to use the Memento ink is because we're going to wipe this off. So as soon as I get done adding all this, we're going to wipe it off. And then you'll see what we have left. So you want to make sure that you get this into all the little areas on your image. Okay, so I left this open down here on the bottom just so I had something to hang on to. But now we're just going to, take just like a piece of paper towel and just kind of wipe off the excess ink. And you can see how beautiful of an image that you get. So how cool is that? So that's it. You just sponge your cardstock with whatever colors you want, stamp your images and emboss them with the clear embossing powder and your heat gun, and then color it in with your black ink. Okay, so we are ready to create our card. So the first thing I did was just cut a 1 by 4 inch piece of designer paper. So I'm just using some Flirty flamingo paper, and we're just going to adhere this right across the bottom. That's why I said, it doesn't matter that we didn't get ink down there, because that's going to get covered up. Then I cut a 1 by 4 inch piece of Flirty flamingo cardstock, and all I'm going to do is just tear this and just kind of create a little addition for my card here. So I'm going to add this piece right across. So that's just going to go right across here. Okay, then I just added a little bow here. I just kind of wrapped some twine around the bottom part of this cardstock piece and added that bow. So I am just going to go ahead and adhere this to a piece of Flirty flamingo cardstock. And then I just created a little greeting using some layering ovals. So we're going to add that. And then for the finishing touch, we will just add a couple of pearls. All right, so there you go. Now you have just a beautiful background here. And it's just a great way to color in this image without actually coloring it. I love that. All right, let me show you the next card. All right, this next card features the same kind of technique, except for I just changed it up a little bit with the design. So instead of bringing my black ink all the way over, I just kind of created like a worn look or kind of a rough edge with the ink. So let me show you how to create this one. Okay, so we're again going to start with a 5 1/4 by 4 inch piece of white cardstock. And I have already done my sponging on here so that you don't have to watch me sponge that again. So I'm just going to bring back my scrap paper here. So I'm going to ink up my image again with this Versamark ink. And this time I'm going to stamp it kind of off to the left-hand side. And then, of course, we'll go ahead and add our embossing powder. So I just like to add a lot of embossing powder to make sure I cover the whole image. And then we are going to heat to set. All right, so I have the image all shiny, so it's all ready to go. So it's all heat embossed. And so now basically what I'm going to do, I'm going to just turn it this way, is I'm going to do the same thing I did before. So I'm just going to, you know, rub the ink onto my image here. So this is just that black Memento ink. But as I kind of get towards the end of the image, I'm just going to kind of start making a little design across the edge here, just to kind of give it a little different look. So I'm not going to completely fill that in. At least on this edge, I'm not. And I think that looks pretty good. And now we will just use our paper towel and just kind of wipe off this excess. So this black Memento ink does not adhere to the embossed image, whereas if you would use Stays-On ink, Stays-On is a more permanent ink, so it would stick to the image and it would cover this embossing right up. But the Memento ink is more water-based, so it won't do that. Okay. So now we're ready to make our card. Now the other thing you might notice is that this image has a lot more color and it's a lot darker, whereas this one's a little bit more lighter. And that's because I did very light color back here. So the darker you make your color, the darker your image will be. So just kind of an FYI for you. So the first thing I'm going to do is my little bit of paper tearing. So I'm going to make the edge of this look just like the edge of my black here. So just to kind of give it a little bit more texture. All right, the next thing I did is just cut a 1x4 inch piece of pattern paper. So this is actually going to go on the right side of the card front. So we'll just adhere that over here. And then we can take our embossed image and we will add that to the card. And so this is going to overlap. My torn image is going to overlap onto this pattern paper. I should say the torn side will overlap onto that pattern paper. Okay, next we're just going to add a little greeting down here on the bottom. And then, of course, for the finishing touch, we'll just add a couple of pearls. So each of the cards that you put together this way are going to look a little bit different. So you can see here the difference between these two cards. The color is very much lighter in this one than it is in this one. But they're both beautiful and they were very easy to do. All right, let's move on to card number 3. All right, and this last card idea, I'm just using the same image to just kind of stamp around the outside edge of the card. Just to give it a little different look. So let me show you how to make this one. So again, you're going to start with a 5 1/4 by 4 inch piece of cardstock, just white cardstock. And you're going to do your sponging in whatever colors you want to use. Then we're going to take our large image and we're going to stamp this all around the edge of our cardstock. So I am actually stamping it 4 times. I'm not going to worry too much about over here on this side because that's actually going to end up getting covered up. Part of it will get covered up. All right, and we'll stamp it once more. So you're just stamping it 4 times. Well, depending on what image you're using. All right, so we'll go ahead and add our embossing powder. So again, I'm just using some clear embossing powder. And we'll just tap off the excess and we will heat to set this image. All right, so now that we have our image set, we can go ahead and add our black ink. So we'll just rub this across the image. And again, just make sure if you have a real detailed image like what I'm using here, you just want to kind of make sure that you get that black ink in some of that fine detail. So don't be afraid to, really kind of squish this ink in there, because it will only adhere to the cardstock. It's not going to adhere to your stamped image. All right, so the next thing I did is I cut a 2x4 inch piece of pattern paper, and I'm just gonna adhere it over on this left side of the cardstock. And then I'm just gonna take that leftover torn piece of cardstock from when we created the first card. So this is just a 1x4 inch piece that we tore in half. So I'm gonna adhere that to the side. And then we'll go ahead and wrap a little bit of twine around this. Okay, so once you just wrap a bit of twine around here and add your bow, you can go ahead and add this to the card front. And then you can add your greeting. And then for the finishing touch, we'll just add a few pearls. And there you go. It's just really a beautiful and very simple technique. So this will work with pretty much any stamp set. I recommend a stamp set that, fills in a little bit more. So I wouldn't recommend like an outline set, but it will work with, a set that is just an outline. But, the more image that you stamp, meaning the fuller the image is, the better this technique will work. Okay, so there you go. Now you have learned another fun embossing technique, and you have 3 different ways that you can use this technique in your card making. And if you enjoyed this video, feel free to download the printable tutorial. You can find the link in the description below this video. Thanks so much for joining me today. If you enjoyed this video, please let me know by liking it and sharing it with your friends. And leave me a comment below to let me know what you enjoyed most about the video and the cards shared here today. Have a fun and creative day, my friends. Take care.